Hi everybody, I'm Darragh Ryder, CEO of Head, and I know many of you, but I'm also really excited to meet those of you I don't know over the next couple of days. I suppose my job here today is super easy. It's about 5 minutes just to frame the day before we move on. I suppose this week, most of you will know that it's St. Patrick's Week here in Ireland, so we're celebrating our patron saint. And I was actually doing a bit of reading over the weekend just about the history of St. Patrick. To my shame, I didn't actually know that much about it other than the sort of cliches of chasing the snakes out of Ireland and all that crack. But yeah, I suppose some of the stuff I learned about him, well, first of all, he's born in the 4th century in what is now Wales, over the other side of the water. He was born into privilege. He was actually the son of a clergyman and a council member. So he was born into privilege. But quite early in his life, he was actually captured by Irish pirates and enslaved, brought back to Ireland, where he was enslaved and was essentially working as a shepherd for his slave master. He was also, despite being born the son of a clergyman, he interestingly rebelled in his young life and spent a large period of his youth as an atheist before he sort of refound his faith in the hills of Ireland, shepherding sheep, as maybe one might you might imagine. And then I suppose the other interesting thing about him was that despite having his health across his early years, his writings indicate actually that he experienced from a chronic illness throughout the later periods of his life. He repeatedly refers to that in the letters. It's quite unusual that we have a lot of letters from someone from the 4th century, so we're lucky to have that. And I was thinking about all this and said, my God, this man is a walking ad for the need for universal design. He's gone from privilege to poverty, from faith to atheism, and from health to ill health. And I thought that was an interesting little shining a light on the need for this stuff that we're doing. I suppose we've been advancing within this community in Ireland in tertiary education on this journey towards, I suppose, seeing universal design as a core frame for our response to meeting the diverse needs of our society. In particular, in Ireland, we sit here as a very knowledge-based economy. We think about education being your ticket to a good life often as part of that, and universal design becoming a really core strategy within that. And I think what we're here to celebrate over the next couple of days is how our thinking, our maturity in this space is growing, and that we're moving from, I suppose, where we would have seen this as largely an individualized response, and maybe that both from the level of the individuals that we serve, but also the individual practitioners in our institution, to something that's much more systemic and moving right into the heart of our institutions. And that's the journey we're on, and we still have a long way to go with that. But certainly, I think we're beginning to have a clearer direction of travel here in Ireland, and it's something that we should celebrate. That often actually we're beginning to be looked to across the international space as people who are movers and shakers in this zone and really setting a trend. So it's something we should be all quite proud of. I want to pay a huge tribute to all of the team who were behind the Altitude project. I stand up here as a member of that group and a proud member, but it was a huge cross-sectoral project. There was 52 project members in the development team that led that. It was 15 higher education institutions, 6 education and training boards, which were selected by directors of FET to represent the further education and training sector here, and 6 national agencies as well. So this is a huge collaborative effort that has brought us to the space that we're here to talk about today. And of course, Altitude is just is one frame for this, but there's lots of other institutions who have not yet adopted Altitude. I'm going to use the word yet and hope, but are also doing really, really important work in this space. So just to pay maybe a big round of applause to all of the community who are driving this forward for us. So I'm just going to give some opening remarks. I'm really pleased to welcome Nessa White. So Nessa was supposed to be here today. Unfortunately, she's been unwell, and so she's heroically still going to join us from the online space. But thankfully, I suppose the hybrid setup allows us to be quite flexible, so we were able to get Nessa in, and we want to really thank her, despite her being unwell, coming to join us today. So Nessa is the interim CEO in SOLAS. So for those of you who don't know, SOLAS is our further education and training authority here in Ireland. She's worked in various executive director roles in SOLAS since 2020 and has over 20 years of leadership experience in the education and health sectors. And I suppose on a more personal level, SOLAS has been, or Nessa has been a really pivotal driver of universal design in the FET space, both in our recent capacity as acting CEO, but also in our previous capacity as Executive Director for Transformation, ensuring that universal design was a core part of the previous sort of strategy for FET, and hopefully the next one too. So Nessa, I'm hoping you can hear us, and I might hand over to you, but could you please give a big round of applause to Nessa White, please?
Morning, Dara. Morning, everyone from Gorey. It certainly wasn't my intention to be engaging with you in this way, but yeah, plans were different, and I guess that's where we always start, isn't it? We have a plan, and one of the reasons that I'm here today, even online, is because of Dara and the leadership that he consistently provides. So I think this is in my diary about 6 months, and I certainly didn't want to miss it. And Lee set alarms and tried to do everything to be with you in person. But as he said to me in a text this morning, firstly checking if I was okay, and secondly said, it is a Universal Design Conference, Nessa, so it's set up for all eventualities. So here I am. And what a privilege it is to be here talking to you today. A gathering of leaders, educators, practitioners, and partners who share that common purpose, to shape the tertiary education space where every learner thrives. For more than 30 years now, the state has recognised the national importance of a head's mission, not only for what it delivers, but for what it represents. And AHEAD has become part of our social and educational infrastructure, championing a future where every learner is respected, included, and supported. And it's really easy to work with someone like Dara, to be honest. Any opportunity at any event that we get, there's always a 5 minutes here and there. So today is one of those events where I'd like to ask you to lift your gaze above that familiar vantage point of our daily work and take in the full landscape of what you have on offer today and the programme of engagement that you have available to you. And look at it with fresh clarity and renewed purpose. And I guess, like Dara, I like to use the word yet often in my life, both personal and professional. But when we talk about the Altitude Charter, and those that haven't yet signed up, it does offer more than a framework. It's a shared commitment to embedding universal design across the governance, teaching, learner support, digital ecosystems, and physical environments of the learners that we serve. And momentum is building, with the organisations that have already adopted the Charter, including our ETV sector, and also some additional that I understand will be done on in the next couple of days over this programme of events. Today is intentionally dynamic, the space of connection and active learning. And again, one of the reasons I'm so annoyed not to be there, but if you are in the convention centre, the altitude zones do invite you to shape your own learning. So for today, pause, be present, really make the most of the time that you have. And what's a really well thought out and planned agenda. But the true power of today lies in what happens next. How do we bring these ideas back into our organisations and use them to co-create a system that keeps evolving, keeps listening, keeps improving the learner experience? So when we look at FET, and as the interim CEO in Solace, I feel very privileged to have had 8 months at the helm, leading an organisation where we've seen that over 2025 for a year, where we've had challenges, funding and others, 224,000 learners engaged in FET. More than 60% of those were women. And nearly 75,000 were under 25. And then not to forget, 28,000 were over 65. Again, reflective of our lovely country now, they represent 260. And also, including those young people who left school then. Dara spoke earlier about the journey, but I think we could all reflect and see where did our journey take us and what was the plan we had, and what were the different things that made it difficult for the plan to come to fruition. So access matters. Access alone isn't equity. So we question, and I'll talk about the FET strategy that we're going to launch soon, but we question, are we providing those wraparound supports, providing structural progression pathways, learners to really need to slide. But before we talk about flexibility and agility, we must also acknowledge that many learners experience overlapping learners, disability, poverty, parent responsibilities, migration, trauma, to mention but a few. So equity must be designed, and we're currently designing our strategic performance agreements. And they must be taken into consideration in funding and delivery, and not simply measured after the fact. So we place huge emphasis on creation of double index, and we target funding in those areas. And the intersection then for provision that is stackable, modular, and genuinely accessible. Stackable pathways allow progress at a sustainable pace that recognises the individual. The too long our systems have been built around courses, funding plans, and certification structures. But our data tells us that in the overall FET system, 63% of our loans are parchment. For learners with a disability, 69% of our loans. Because as we know, there's a balancing that has to be achieved for learners to be able to succeed. When we look at a head's leadership in this area, from the Willing Aid and Mentoring Programme to the development of the inclusive framework, expanded advocacy and national employment policy, this ensured progression is always achievable and supported. So when I look at a new FET strategy, creating futures, there are 4 pillars that mirror the ambition and purpose of this one. Future-ready knowledge and skills is the first. So what do we want to do? Prepare learners thrive in a rapidly changing world. Inclusion for prosperity and cohesion. How can we ensure that every community has access to opportunity? And it's not based on the connections that we in Ireland are very good at. When they're good, they're really good. But when they don't exist, they become a barrier. The third area and objective is quality with innovation. So we want to build a modern, agile, learner-centered system. And then the fourth, and I mentioned it at the outset, and for me, it's living proof of what collaboration does. Collaborating for impact is an objective of the strategy, because we recognise in Solus that no single institution can deliver what's required for the learners alone. If we are serious about national skills transformation, we must look at gender segregation in fields of study, support confidence building and preparatory pathways, particularly in areas like STEM. We want to align our labour market intelligence with inclusive outreach. For today, remember, every single person in this room is a leader. Whether your influence is felt in a classroom, a policy room, a support service, program design meeting, or that simple moment where you stop, pause to reassure a learner or a colleague that they're on the right track. You are shaping the future of learning. So in conclusion, I'd love us all to commit to aiming to design for learners that we actually have, getting to know them better so we design ahead, creating pathways that adapt to people's real lives, and embedding equity at that point of design and not within it. Future of tertiary education in Ireland can be inclusive, flexible, ambitious, and equitable. So for this morning, once again, thank you for accommodating me in what wasn't part of my plan yesterday, and I was telling Dara how looking forward I was to coming today. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy work life to be there. And thank you to Dara in ahead for all of what you do. You've been a wonderful team of people that make a difference every day.
Thank you so much, Nessa, for that. Really appreciate you joining us today, especially given the circumstances, and for that message that you're sending about the importance of proactive, inclusive design right through our systems and right down into what practitioners are doing on the ground. So we really, really appreciate you joining us, Nessa, and mind yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks,